You're listening to The Unsafe Bible with Pastor Ken Brown.
I've talked to people who are struggling financially, really struggling financially, struggling with disease because of their lifestyle, struggling with other things that are going on. And I've always asked them that question after they tell me, I don't want to accept Jesus because I lose my freedom. I just always look at them and say, well, how's that going for you so far? Seems like what you're trying to do isn't working. Have you thought about trying something else? And every so often somebody, I think I'll do that. In short, the judgment of God is to give us over to our freedom. You want freedom? Okay, fine, great, I'll give you that.
We're all about freedom and independence as Americans, maybe to a fault. We don't want anyone to tell us what we can or can't do with our lives. As Pastor Ken will point out in today's message, the version of freedom we subscribe to is often a misunderstanding of what true freedom is. As much as we love our freedom from oppression and authoritarianism, we can only find a deeper spiritual freedom by submitting ourselves to Jesus Christ. With Him as our Lord and Savior, the chains of sin are broken. Well, let's join Pastor Ken in the book of Zechariah, chapter 11, as he continues his message, Consequences.
The ultimate description of a fool, literally what it says in the scriptures, in the book of Proverbs, because the book of Proverbs is a comparison of a fool and a scoffer and the wise. There is no God. That's what a fool says. And that's what it says in the book of Proverbs. A fool is not saved. They're corrupt. Their way is vile. There is no one who does good. We see that in the book of Psalms. A foolish shepherd, then, is what we're seeing here. This is someone who is the antithesis, the exact opposite of the good shepherd. The good shepherd is Jesus Christ. He's the Messiah. The foolish shepherd is the Antichrist. He's the one who's going to rise to power after the rapture of the church. He'll sign a 7-year peace deal with the nation of Israel. That's what's going to reveal him to the world. You don't know who he is until that happens. So please don't ask me whether or not Putin is the Antichrist. I don't know. I've been asked whether or not Kissinger was the Antichrist, Putin, Nixon, Napoleon, anybody who becomes a world leader and is a little bit off. Oh, that must be the next Antichrist. We don't know. We have no idea. But there's going to be a 7-year peace deal signed with the nation of Israel, and it's going to be broken at the 3.5-year point. He is the one who will be personally empowered by Satan. It says that in Revelation 13:2. Once Satan and his minions are cast out of heaven. Right now, they operate in the heavenlies. They don't have access to the throne room, but they have access to the heavenlies. And the archangel Michael is going to kick them out with a word and restrict them to earth. We see that in Revelation 12, verses 7 to 9. Now, there are some commentators, just in case you're studying this on your own, they'll say that an event in 132 AD fulfilled this. It didn't. It points to what's going to happen at the end of the age. It points to what the foolish shepherd will do. So if you want to see a type of that, then yes, the events of 116 AD and 132 AD are probably close. But in 132 AD, a guy by the name of Simon Bar Kokhba led actually the third Jewish revolt against Rome, and he was declared by many to be the Messiah. He wasn't, and it didn't end well for him or for most of the people following him. I say it was the third one because there was a second rebellion that took place in Jewish communities all over the Roman Empire at the same time that Rome had to put down by force. It actually made the Emperor Trajan leave his combat operations against the Parthian Empire and come back to try and put it down. And it was put down with a large cost of lives, but it never spread to Jerusalem. Well, the Bar Kokhba rebellion took the Romans 3 years to suppress, and it cost a lot of lives. Unlike the first rebellion in 70 AD, at the end of the Bar Kokhba rebellion, the Roman Senate was not lenient anymore. They made circumcision a capital crime. Jews were forbidden to serve in civic positions anywhere in the empire, and Jerusalem was literally turned into a colony of Rome with a new legal foundation. A temple to Jupiter was built on the Temple Mount, and it was given a new name called Aelia Capitolina, and the name of the country was called Palestina. And any Jew that actually walked into, even could see Jerusalem, would be put to death. They were not allowed there anymore. Now, by the way, the shekel disappeared until 1948. Then the shekel came back. Everything came back in 1948. But if there had been a popular anti-Semitic sentiment around the empire, it became official government policy as a result of the Bar Kokhba rebellion. So you talk about what Jesus was saying and what Zechariah is saying about the Good Shepherd and all the things that are going to happen to them when they reject him, they all took place, all of them. The shepherd being depicted by Zechariah, the foolish shepherd, is one who is morally worthless, evil, and corrupt. And despite having the Good Shepherd, the nation rejected him, and as a result, they are subjecting themselves to devastating consequences. And they did do this. Jerusalem was destroyed. Millions were killed as a result of the first rebellion, 1.1 million. Thousands were killed in the empire during the second rebellion, and then the third rebellion ended everything. There were very few who survived at that point. These events all point to what will be taking place at the end of the age, and what Zechariah is prophesying about the day of the Lord. So it's a picture of what's going to happen in the future. Now, several consequences have already been seen in former verses, and now these last three verses of Zechariah 11, we are warned of another consequence. The rise of Antichrist is being predicted for us by Zechariah. Zechariah 11:16, behold, I am going to raise up a shepherd in the land who will not care for the perishing, seek the scattered, heal the broken, or provide for the one who is exhausted, but will devour the flesh of the fat sheep and tear off their hoofs. Sounds like a bad guy. The bad news for the nation is this: the foolish shepherd is allowed and appointed by God as judgment because his people forsook the true shepherd. Nope, we don't want Jesus, we don't want Messiah. And when they rejected Jesus, that was fulfilled. Now, there is a point in time, and Zechariah will actually write about it when we get to chapter 13. We'll see where the nation turns to and asks for Messiah to save them. And he does. But we read this and we wonder, how could anybody reject Messiah and the good things he brings? What were they thinking? But all of us have rejected him at one time or another. I mean, we were all sinners before we came to Christ. The events of Genesis 3 are actually more of the truth for us pre-Jesus than we would like to think sometimes. We think we're true, but as believers, we know that we used to think we were free when we rebelled against him. And now we know that because we are believers, we are truly free. I was allowed to watch a video of a gentleman who is serving a life sentence in prison. He gave his life to the Lord, and he wanted to be baptized, and for 3 years they wouldn't let him. They finally went in and allowed him to be baptized. And as he's coming out of the water, he's praising the Lord for how free he is in Jesus. And he's never going to leave prison, but he's free because of Jesus and what Jesus did for him. Jesus changed all of that for us. But for those still in unbelief, this is still the reality. They think I don't want to give my life to Jesus because if I do, I'm giving up my freedom. I don't want to do that. I don't want to give up my freedom. I like to be able to make my own decisions, do my own thing. I've talked to people who are struggling financially. I mean, really struggling financially, struggling with disease because of their lifestyle, struggling with other things that are going on. And I've always asked them that question after they tell me, I don't want to accept Jesus because I lose my freedom. I just always look at them and say, well, how's that going for you so far? Seems like what you're trying to do isn't working. Have you thought about trying something else? And every so often somebody, okay, yeah, I think I'll do that. In short, the judgment of God is to give us over to our freedom. You want a freedom? Okay, fine, great, I'll give you that. He'll let us wander and flounder as we will, as unbelievers. That's what he was letting us do. But if we give our life to Jesus, then Messiah will guide us and direct us and keep us from doing the really dumb things we used to think that were really, really fun. To be free, according to the teaching of the Scriptures, is, well, to be free, not to be destroyed and to die, but to the freedom that folks think they have, well, they have freedom to be destroyed and to die. Why would somebody want to kill themselves simply because their girlfriend left them? I've asked that of several young men in the Air Force when they decided to end everything, and we stopped them. They couldn't understand why we stopped them. Well, it was our job to not let them hurt themselves. Kind of stupid, though. I'm holding a gun on the guy and saying, quit doing that or I'll have to do something bad to you. But, they stopped. To be free is to give our life to Jesus Christ. Paradise is not unbridled freedom, but it's obedience in service to Jesus Christ. That's what I want to hear. Well done, good and faithful servant. That's all I'm living for these days. The foolish shepherd is not like the good shepherd, not at all. They rejected the good shepherd. And the characteristics that were given of the foolish shepherd is opposite of the good shepherd. And we see glimpses of this all around us today, as we see the never-ending parade of self-serving politicians, managers, and so-called leaders who each allege to be acting in our best interests, but at the end of the day, they're patting their pocket, they're putting money on, they're taking care of themselves. They're not taking care of us. They act on their own self-interests. And when they do that, each is reflecting, to a small degree, the one that they're actually listening to and following. So what are the characteristics of the foolish shepherd that we see here in Zechariah 11? Well, the good shepherd seeks the lost sheep in order to protect them. That's what he does. Jesus talked about that he'll go out and he'll seek that last sheep to make sure that they're back in the sheepfold, that they're okay. But the foolish shepherd doesn't care for the perishing. Don't expect there to be any rescue missions launched after the beast comes to the temple and declares he's God, counterfeiting the Son and must be worshipped. There will not. Why do a rescue mission when all you want to do is decrease the population of the planet anyhow? He's not going to save anybody. The people are going to flee just as Jesus encourages them to in Matthew chapter 24. But along the way, you're going to have some, and Jesus warns about it, pray that you're not pregnant, pray that it's not in the winter, pray that you're not, he talks about that. And they're going to wind up not being able to get to where they're going to be protected supernaturally by the Lord. They're going to be lost along the way. And this foolish shepherd won't exercise mercy at all. Not one whit. It's not part of what he wants to do. The good shepherd seeks the lost sheep to maintain the flock, but the foolish shepherd wants the flock dead. In Revelation 13, verses 7 to 8, we see this. This is a description of the beast, and I've got to explain a word there that shows up in the Greek, and it's in this translation too. The beast is not referred to in chapter 13 as a him. He is referred to as an it. There's a reason why. He might have been, something happens at the 3.5-year point, and it is no longer truly human. It was allowed to fight against God's people and defeat them. It was also given authority over the people of every tribe, nation, language, and race. The beast was worshipped by everyone whose name wasn't written before the time of creation in the book of the Lamb, who was killed. So the good shepherd comes to seek and to save those who are lost. As we see here, that's not what the beast wants to do at all. He wants to have all who have scattered that's what Jesus wants. If you're scattered, he wants to recover them and care for them. But the foolish shepherd isn't interested in saving any of the refugees who don't quite make it to Basra, where they're going to be held up for 3.5 years, protected supernaturally by the Lord as they head southeast in the desert. If they're broken, if they're scattered, as far as the foolish shepherd is concerned, as far as the beast is concerned, they're targets, and they need to be eliminated unless they meet his needs. And we'll find out he has some interesting needs. The good shepherd heals the broken and provides for those who are exhausted. That's what he does. God will supernaturally protect Israel from Satan's onslaught, symbolized by a ferocious flood flowing from the dragon's mouth. We see that in Revelation 12, 14 to 16. And we also see there that the land will actually fight against Satan on behalf of the Lord and protect the people who have made it into this area that they're going to be protected in. Satan will use the Antichrist as his primary tool for carrying out this extermination plan. Now, Jesus tells us, I'm the good shepherd. He proclaims it for all to hear. This is one of his statements where he's actually saying he is God. He is the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Jesus accomplished this on the cross and then rose from the dead, making the defeat of Satan complete. This is why the foolish shepherd, the beast, is directed towards the destruction of anything connected to God, including his people. Satan is the one who empowers the beast, and Satan's goal is the complete, total destruction of the Jews and all tribulation believers. That's the goal of the foolish shepherd as well. The foolish shepherd will devour the flesh of the fat sheep and tear off their hoofs. It's interested only in what is in it that they want, which is money, power, control, you name it, that's what he wants. The beast wants what they had and what they can be used for. This ominous idea actually does show up, too, in the scriptures. We see it in a list of things that the beast's capital is known for as a trading partner. This is things that happen to it after it's destroyed. But in Revelation 18, we get a list of these things being sold and what they're trading in. It's verses 11 to 13. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn for her because no one buys their cargo anymore. Cargo such as gold, silver, precious stones, pearls. I mean, it's all stuff. Until you get to the very end of verse 13. Slaves and human lives. What? Well, they're going to be involved in slavery. Trading in human lives here is, you've got slavery, you've got that going on, human trafficking. But when they say trading in human lives, it's more than human trafficking. We're talking about a trade in assassination and hunting down Jews and tribulation believers to kill them during the tribulation or enslave them. We could also be talking about the killing of people solely for their organs to be transplanted into those who have power and money. So that could be going on. Genetic manipulation to include the replacement parts for the rich and powerful. So, in other words, he can use them. And there may also be a drug traffic trade going on involving adrenochrome after the tribulation as well, where it's produced by the adrenal gland, and it's supposed to be a aphrodisiac or some kind of powerful drug, but it can only be effectively used from someone who is scared out of their mind just before they die. We have no idea what it could be, but I'm just throwing out possibilities right now. When you read human lives, that's what he's talking about. All the opposite of the good shepherd who gave his life so we could be with him forever. Now, I don't think Zechariah is drawing a pretty picture here. He's drawing a pretty grim picture of this is what their rejection of the good shepherd has bought them. The foolish shepherd is the satanic shepherd. He is a counterfeit of the real thing. And we also get a description of him physically here, too. We'll know what he looks like. Verse 17, woe to the worthless shepherd who abandons the flock. A sword will be on his arm and on his right eye. His arm will be totally withered, and his right eye will be blind. At the midpoint of the tribulation, an event takes place involving the beast. He is assassinated, or it looks like he's been assassinated. And he will emerge from that as the beast. Verse 3 and 4 of Revelation 13 says this, one of the beast's heads appeared to have been killed, but the lethal wound had been healed. And the whole world followed the beast in amazement. They worshiped the dragon because he had given ruling authority to the beast. And they worshiped the beast too, saying, who's like the beast? And who is able to make war against him? So the so-called resurrection, it's a trick. It's a counterfeit, just like everything else that Satan does. And there's a reason why the beast is called an it in Revelation. I believe it has to do with genetic manipulation and cybernetics. In other words, what we're going to see is Locutus of Borg will actually live. Think the Borg, okay? I mean, that's the closest we can come to as we start thinking about this. One of the characteristics that a careful study of the scriptures show is that the beast will not only be personally empowered by Satan, but it may also be an enhanced human, cybernetically and genetically. There's another guy who did the same thing. He's in Genesis chapter 11. His name is Nimrod, and the scriptures say he became a Gibborim. In other words, he was in the process of becoming a giant as a result of genetic manipulation, the same kind of stuff that took place back in Genesis chapter 6. Believe it or not, there are management books now being written with this scenario in them, teaching new managers of the potential environment of the near future involving cybernetically enhanced humans or genetically enhanced humans. So consider a future, and this is in the book, where it says human beings cannot quit their jobs because they have to rely on their employers for a lifetime supply of antivirus updates, immunosuppressive drugs, and physical maintenance of their full cyborg body. Human workers whose invasive neural interfaces allow them to dwell permanently within virtual worlds, That's under development right now by Mr. Musk, and whose physical bodies must be cared for by their employer's biomedical support division. Neurocybernetically linked human workers who lose their personal identity and merge to form a hive mind, whose members share collective sensations, emotions, and volitions, a vast, tangled digital physical ecosystem in which an organization's human and synthetic employees, buildings, vehicles, manufacturing equipment, databases, products, and customers are all cybernetically linked through their participation in the Internet of Being. That's a book called Post-Human Management: Creating Effective Organizations in an Age of Social Robotics, Ubiquitous AI, Human Augmentation, and Virtual Worlds. The Army is actually training officers right now at West Point how to deal with soldiers who are cybernetically connected to computer systems and effectively manage them in the battlefield. And DARPA is busy trying to find a way to be able to have people connected to a computer without wearing a device on their head where it's just implanted in their brain, which is what Elon Musk is working on again. Welcome to the utopia that the World Economic Forum and DARPA really want to have. And there's others, that's what they want. For this worthless shepherd, his right side remains evidence of the assassination attempt. Now that's a counterfeit. Guess what that's a counterfeit of? The nail scars in Jesus' hands and his feet, which we see when we will see him as he is. Those are the man-made things that will be in heaven, his scars in his hands and his feet. So, of course, Satan has to counterfeit that, and this guy is going to have a withered right arm and a right eye. It could be that he's got cybernetic implants on that side. We don't know. By the time the beast has this appearance, though, it will be obvious to the people of Israel they put their trust in the wrong person. He's a counterfeit shepherd, not the good shepherd. And he is considered worthless. The phrase goes from foolish shepherd to worthless here in the last verse of chapter 11. This foolish, worthless individual is a required precursor, by the way, for the main event, which is yet to come, the second coming of Jesus Christ. You got to have this guy first. And this is an event that we're seeing, and we're at the midpoint of the tribulation when this starts showing up in Zechariah. And that is going to be the focus of the rest of the book. From chapter 12 on, we're talking about the attempted destruction of the city of Jerusalem that takes place at Armageddon. So we're going to be zipping forward to that point in time. Verses 1 to 3 of chapter 12. The pronouncement of the word of the Lord concerning Israel. The Lord who stretches out the heavens, lays the foundation of the earth, informs the spirit of a person within him, declares, Behold, I am going to make Jerusalem a cup that causes staggering to all the peoples around it. And when the siege is against Jerusalem, it will also be against Judah. It will come about on that day that I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples. All who lift it will injure themselves severely, and all the nations of the earth will be gathered against it. This is prophecy from Zechariah. And it's what the Lord has been leading up to with everything else in the book. He's pointing towards this. We've learned because of the fulfilled prophecy that took place during Zechariah's lifetime, as well as those things that have taken place since then, up to stuff that we're seeing happen today, that he's reliable as a prophet. You can take to the bank what he says. We need to understand that as we start reading chapter 12 moving forward. When he speaks in the name of the Lord, that's who he's speaking from, that's who he's speaking for, and what he's saying will happen as he says it will.
Thanks for joining us today here on the Unsafe Bible. This program is a ministry of Calvary Chapel, Martin County in Hobe Sound, Florida. Pastor Ken Brown has been leading us in a study through the Old Testament book of Zechariah. As we've studied this text verse by verse, we see many references to the Messianic kingdom that is being founded here on earth. The prophet Zechariah is all too aware of how different earthly kingdoms will fight against each other for dominance, leaving death and destruction in their wake. But the Messianic kingdom to come will be the end of human suffering, and those who sinned against God will face justice for the evil doings they've done. This isn't just a story we read about in some book. It is the Word of God, and the prophecies we read in this book are for things that have yet to fully happen in our world. Well, if you'd like to be a part of the kingdom of justice, we'd love to tell you more about what it means to follow Jesus and gain that kingdom citizenship. Just visit us online at theunsafebible.com and navigate to our Connect tab. You'll also find more messages from Pastor Ken, which should help you grow and mature in your faith. And also, there are in-person service opportunities at Calvary Chapel, Martin County. Well, Pastor Ken is going to continue teaching verse by verse through Zechariah in the next edition of the Unsafe Bible. We'd like to thank you for joining us for today's program and for spending a short time in the Word of God. Until next time, this has been the latest edition of the Unsafe Bible.